This podcast replay is brought to you by Choice Mortgage Bank. Call Michael Kotze right now, 561-441-2730. State rates under 3.5%. 561-441-2730 for Choice Mortgage Bank.
All right, let's talk a little Tua with Martin Houston from the Martin Houston Show. They're at 100.9 FM. They're in Tuscaloosa.
Pull that door, Jack.
Martin, how are you doing, my man? Good afternoon.
I'm doing well, Big O, and glad to be in with you, man.
It is good to have you on, my friend. How is the buzz now in Bama with Tua sidelined? Talk to us a little bit about the buzz right now with the young man.
Well, for us, Big O, it's kind of like we're having to adjust. It's been a while since we've had to talk about anything other than getting ready to play for a national championship. So I think we've just about, adjusted to life with no playoffs as far as the Tua situation. Tua has kind of kept himself relevant and impacting his team still in a powerful way, which shows his true sign of the type of leader and player he is, not just with his arm talent and his smarts, but that leadership role that he's played. You look, I think that Alabama goes into this game with Michigan with a legit chance to win because Tua was able to sit down and encourage and keep all of those guys that were on the verge of, we think here locally, not playing in that bowl game. But I think him talking to them and talking about leaving a legacy and all of that, I think that had a huge impact. So even though he's not on the field right now and won't be on the field, when we take on Michigan in the Citrus Bowl, I think he will have a huge impact on that game.
What's your gut tell you right now, Martin? Is he crazy enough to stay? Because it doesn't make sense for him to stay, really. He should go. But you can make an argument to stay, get healthy, prove that you can stay healthy and have a good year. What do you think happens with Tua?
Well, I think it's really based on what's true, what's real, what's the actual story. If the actual story out there is that he's going to be, one of these top, 15 picks, or to me, if he goes anywhere in the first round, then I think if that's still true and the NFL scouts are really still looking at him that way, then I think he's crazy for coming back. But I think this young man has a little something different about him. I think he wants to leave a legacy. I think he wants to be the man. I know we talk about second and 26, but he knows that wasn't his team. That was Jalen's team. He hasn't gotten his team there. And I think legacy and all of that means something to him. And I think that's why he's thinking about coming back. And the reason he comes back, Big O, if he does, is I think he's talking to the Lords of London and all of those and getting that, what I call gap insurance between where you're projected to go and where you actually end up. But to me, risk and reward, I think he's taking a huge risk in coming back if he can still be, one of those first round draft picks. And been a late round draft pick probably in the long run of things. If I'm a New Orleans or a Green Bay or one of, the Patriots or something like that, I go get this kid because I got a quarterback that's going to play for another couple of years and rehab him and get him well and get him acclimated and bring him up. And I think that ends up being, longevity for his career. Especially, we know what happens to these quarterbacks that go to these sorry teams. The David Carrs of the world prove that out, and Tua does not need to land in one of those situations.
So let me. First of all, Martin, there is no freaking way he lasts all the way to the end of the first round. This is such a quarterback desperate league. I think he's gone within the top 10, 15 picks. At that point, I think somebody will take a chance on him because he's such an exceptional passer. It's funny, Martin,
right,
because you're in the middle of the storm, so you see it every day. But I laugh when people say, well, he's surrounded by all these first-round picks, and none of that has anything to do with accuracy, man. None of that has anything to do with anticipation and ball placement and all of that. You can have great receivers, and I've seen great receivers that have no quarterbacks, and it's hard to get them the ball. And then you're like, hey, man, this guy's great, and he's touching the ball 2 or 3 times, and that's because the dude that's throwing the ball can't get him the ball. I love how we take away credit from the guy that delivers the football because the other guys happen to be really good. Well, guess what? Those guys get to be really good because the guy throwing the football throws it in a, I don't know, pristine fashion.
Yeah. When you talk about Tua, it's so funny, because I was hearing weather the storm of the Jalen and Tua argument, and people dog Jalen. And I go, and every time someone says, well, Jalen, he just beat Jalen out and Jalen quit and all this stuff. And I go, name one quarterback in this country that if Tua had chose their school that would have kept their job. I mean, it's
Lawrence, maybe that's the only guy because that's the only other freak in the damn league. That's
right.
It.
That's I tell people all the time. I'm like, guys, it's no. Jalen has nothing to worry about. Tua Tagovailoa is when it comes to his accuracy and his release, and not just that, but I think what made him special, and he adjusted it because Clemson figured it out, is his pre-read. His strength became a weakness by the end of the season, and that's why Clemson got a couple passes on him because his pre-read was so good that you could deceive him if you had the talent to recover. And Clemson was the only team that had that, in 2017. And so he adjusted that in 2018. Ironically, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, one of the things that makes Tua elite is how quickly he reads it, but then how quickly once he sees it, he can get it out.
Yep.
It also, I think, contributes to his ankle injuries. Watch him when he runs. He never picks his feet up. And so when he sees something, his feet are always so close to the ground, he's able to get rid of the ball so quick. But guess what happens when guys get around his ankles? They get twisted. They get turned. And so it's funny how especially as this kid is, he has a couple little quirks that if he learns to adjust around them, I'm like you. If I'm an owner and I've seen what he's done in college and I've seen what some of these other guys have done that I've taken chances on, I'm taking the kid. I'm not going to let him. I'm not going to let him pass me by. If I need a quarterback, I'm willing to take that chance and go. Okay, here's a whatever $1 million investment, and if it works out, we will more than enough make our money back. If it doesn't, we'll write it off as an investment that we just had to take a risk on.
Martin, what do you tell people like me that I love the kid as a passer? I think he easily can be a player in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind. But, unfortunately, he's too injury prone. I don't believe he'll stay healthy in this league. He's had 4 operations in 2 years in a league that doesn't hit harder, in a league that the players aren't bigger, aren't stronger, aren't faster, and they play more games in the NFL. So there's a lot more that he faces in the NFL than in college, and he can't stay healthy for one college season. There is no way in my mind that it crosses that he's got an NFL line almost in Alabama, and he can't stay healthy. That's my problem with Tua. I think he's crossed that threshold that he's fragile. So tell me, walk me off the ledge and tell me why I shouldn't think that he's fragile.
Well, first of all, you have to look and go, yeah, he had these things, but how different are they? The reality of it is the majority of his injuries have been lower body, knee to ankle. Knee once, which in the NFL, they actually protect that in the NFL quarterbacks. His knee that got hurt last year, Mississippi State, we watched that game, and before he got hurt, they went at his knees about 5 times in that game before they finally got it. Okay? Those guys would be out of the game. So you watch, you can't touch the quarterbacks in the NFL. Number 2 is he has to learn, and this is the question. He's not Brett Favre in the sense of gunslinger. Well, maybe more Aaron Rodgers he won't give up on the play.
Right.
He has to learn to throw the ball away. Because if you go back and look, most of his injuries, he's rolling to his
Outside
left,
of the pocket, yeah, that's right.
outside of the pocket, and he just won't throw the ball away. So can that be fixed? I think it can. And then the last thing is the hip thing is what put it over the hill. And everybody says, that hip thing was not related to his ankle. Yes, it was. Having played the game, we all protect, right? If something's injured, we protect it. Go back and watch that play, Big O. He's rolling to his left. Two guys are chasing him. He runs. That leg is behind him. And right as he gets ready to go to the ground, what does he know is going to happen? He knows he's going to get hit from behind, and he sucks that leg up under him to keep that guy from falling on him. And then two guys fell on him right at that exact moment. So the hip, even though it's a freak thing, it's a weird thing, it actually was related to the exact same injury, even though it's a separate injury, in Martin's opinion. And so I think that injury prone is just one of those weird things. Maybe, I sell insurance, they call actuaries, and they say, well, if you have 100 people, this many are likely to have an injury.
Right.
And this is what the claims you're going to pay. Maybe Tua's used all his up.
Well, I hope for his sake this is the end of his injuries and he's able to move on and have because we all know, I mean, those of us that follow him and believe in him, you don't teach that, man. You either have it or you don't. I've always been a strong believer of that. I don't believe quarterbacks become accurate. I think either you have it or you don't. I always give the analogy like this, Martin. We go to the park, and it's a 4-on-4, 5-on-5, 6-on-6. We're all playing with the fellas. Usually there's only one dude that can really pass the ball. We all want to be on that side because we all know if we're on the other team, the other guy, he just doesn't pass the ball the same way. And it's something you can't teach because there's 8 of you, and one kid came from the other neighborhood across a couple blocks away. He's never played with you, but he's on the team with the guy that can actually throw. So he drops back and he just throws a 9 route, and he throws it on a dime. And he's never played with the kid. Why? Because accuracy is something that you either have it or you don't. And Tua has it. It just is.
Tua has it. He has it in buckets. And I don't know if you know, the most amazing thing about Tua Tagovailoa is first of all, I think he's one of the most accurate in as far as IQ quarterbacks we've seen in a long time. Number 2 is, the kid is naturally right-handed, right? Have you ever heard that story?
No, go ahead.
Tua is not left-handed. He was not born left-handed. His dad was left-handed, and everybody else in the family was right-handed. So he taught Tua to throw with his left hand. And now you look at this kid, and to your point, he is one of the most accurate passers I've ever seen. And to me, a left-handed ball is just prettier than a right-handed ball. So I think it makes it even more like when you see him, throw that deep ball or that slant route or
in stride
when he hits that guy in the middle. And that's, to me, and that's what you just said, that's the difference between a quarterback being able to complete passes and a receiver being good. The difference is Tua hits a Henry Ruggs who runs a 4.2 40 in stride, and it becomes, instead of a 15-yard pass, it's a 65. Devontae Smith, he makes these guys be able to run full speed, never break stride. And that DB, unless he's, in phase with them, he's not going to make that tackle many times. And that's what separates Tua, I think, from virtually any quarterback I've seen at this level. You see guys at the pro level do it, the Drew Breeses of the world, but they don't come out of high school with that level of accuracy, that consistent level of accuracy. And that's what Tua's done since the first time he stepped on the field.
Yeah, and that's what we all said, too, for many years. We're like, okay, Saban is killing it. and he has a jag at quarterback. He has a guy that just facilitates. Can you imagine if you would get somebody dynamic and in comes Jalen and Tua, and that's just taken it to a completely other level, because they always had solid, college quarterbacks, guys that just facilitate, get the ball out, but never really dynamic. And now the last two quarterbacks with Hurts and Tua have been dynamic, and we've seen what the end result is. Now we're seeing something incredibly explosive now at this point. By the way, who's the next explosive quarterback going to Alabama?
It's going to be interesting to see what Saban does, Theo, because I don't know if you have to see signing day. Either it's the new Saban or this kid is really this special. He went on and on talking about Bryce Young, the kid from California, number one dual threat quarterback in the country. Here's what has the people in Tuscaloosa jumping, Big O, is he is Jalen and Tua in the same body. He has the athletic ability of Jalen, and he has the passing acumen of Tua.
Wow.
And it's like people are like, this is crazy. And the only thing, if you had asked us before Tua got hurt, and Mac Jones came in and played well and played admirably, other than the 2 pick sixes, it was people just assumed that Bryce Young was going to come take this team. And now the question becomes, how does Saban manage it? And what I think he's going to do is we're going to have a spring where you're going to see Mac Jones, because he doesn't want to come into next season with a true freshman, a redshirt freshman, and a sophomore that has 4 or 5 games under his belt, and Talia to his younger brother. That's the quarterback room if Mac Jones leaves, and I think he's going to give Mac every chance to do it. But I think Bryce Young will push him and even potentially take the job if Mac wins it coming out of the beginning of the season.
Martin Houston, by the way, from the Martin Houston Show at 100.9 FM there in Tuscaloosa. You can follow him on Twitter at Martin Houston 35. Martin, while I have you here, let me ask you this. You saw Jalen. Now, I'm like in this, I guess I'm old, okay, Martin? That's also probably affects me a little bit on this one. Lamar Jackson's from my backyard here in South Florida. We love the kid. He's fantastic. I still don't believe long-term you can play quarterback in the NFL running 200 times. I think eventually there'll be a haloti nada that will break your ass in half like they did with RG3, like you break down Cam Newton, like you can break down Andrew Luck. This is a brutal league with quarterbacks, and I just don't believe that a quarterback can survive running. I think you have to become a passer, and you have to learn to beat people in the pocket like Russell Wilson. Russell can use his legs, but he uses them as a last-second resort because he's first and foremost a pocket passer. Tua is the same thing. First and foremost, a pocket passer will use his legs. Do you believe Jalen Hurts, who has to live with his legs, is not really a true pocket passer like Tua? Can he survive in the NFL? Because that's the other guy that people are talking about. Maybe not a first rounder, but maybe a second or third rounder. Your thoughts on Jalen, the running quarterback in the NFL, all that good stuff.
I'm probably not. I'm old school, but probably not as old school as you just described yourself to be. I think it can, but I think it takes a complete buy-in like they did with the Ravens. This is the first. Lamar Jackson is the first quarterback we're seeing where an NFL team did not try to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Great point.
In other words, they didn't say, "Hey, you're running quarterback and you're going to run it, but we're going to let you run it from the traditional NFL."
Cam Newton.
Right. Yeah. So even though Lamar runs it a lot, you go back and look, Lamar doesn't get hit a lot. That's number one. He got jacked yesterday, but he doesn't get hit a lot. But here's the question. If he's going to be that type of quarterback, is he training no different from a running back? You see what I'm saying? A running back. Now, the question becomes, do you expect to have a 12-year, 15-year career with a quarterback, or would you take a Lamar Jackson for 8 to 10? I don't think that is a 12 to 15-year career track for a quarterback, but I think he can be an 8 to 10-year career. And if he's as good as Lamar Jackson, a guy who a week ago had leading the league in touchdown passes, but 25th in attempts, then you win with that if you go all in. And that's what Jalen has to find. We saw that Jalen went from a guy who left Alabama where they were trying to make him a square peg in a round hole. He goes out to Oklahoma, and Lincoln Riley just says, "Hey, we're going to become a running team. We're gonna run first and pass and use CeeDee Lamb when we need to, and we're going to do that on Jalen Hurts." And he goes for almost 5,000 yards and 51 touchdowns. You can win with it, but if he goes to the next level and he doesn't get the same buy-in that Lamar Jackson did, you're wasting a pick. If you're going to try to make him be that square peg in a round hole, I don't think it works. But Big O, the question about these guys being long-term is, do you have to kind of change what's a long-term quarterback?
Right.
You're not going to get a Lamar Jackson that's going to play 12, 15 years. But I guarantee you Lamar Jackson, with the offense built around the way it is and deception and not clear hits when he runs the ball, and most of the licks he's taken, would you say most of his licks have been from a DB?
Oh no, he's very Barry Sanders, very Warwick Dunn, very Russell Wilson. Also, you don't really get shots on Russell either.
Right.
He has that gift because, dude, he's such a freak athlete.
Yes.
He has that lateral movement that those special guys, all those guys I talked about, have that lateral shift. But you and I know, Martin, that at one point or another, these other guys are too big, too fast, too strong, and somebody's going to catch them on one of those shifts because it's just a numbers game, man. You know how it is.
But do they not get the pocket passers the same way? That's what I'm saying. You have to kind of change the expectation. The quarterbacks get hit a lot, and these guys, you think about how often the regular quarterbacks really get hurt other than a few guys. I mean, how many times do we see an NFL team start a season with a guy and end the season with a guy? So the question becomes, is he training to take hits? If he's training as a quarterback that's going to sit in the pocket, and if he's doing Brady's workout, or is he doing a Alvin Kamara workout? Is he building that body to take those licks? And if he's not, then you can't do this. The physicality of the football game and the nature itself, you have to train for it. And if you play a position that like a running back, there's different training to take those licks and take that pounding. But Lamar Jackson is as big as some of all of the running backs when I was playing, but big as a lot of the running backs are bigger than a lot of the running backs today. So if he's training for it, he can take it. If he's not, then you probably need to plan on having 2 or 3 good year run and then move on to someone else.
That's Martin Houston. You can catch him at 100.9 FM there in Tuscaloosa, covering the Alabama Crimson Tide, and follow him on Twitter at MartinHouston35. Martin, excellent insight, my man. Thank you for taking some time. I know the Miami fan base really appreciates it. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, and roll tide down in Miami.
You got it, baby. You be good. Thank you.
You do. Bye.
There you go. Martin Houston, man. Good stuff there from 100.9 FM in Tuscaloosa.